All right, how are you guys doing?
Getting hit multiple times coming out of that bike section. More drivers coming to blows. Well, hello and good evening, everybody. Welcome back here to Slow Motion Broadcasting, and welcome back to the Sim Racers Group F4 Championship. This is round number 10 of this season, coming to you tonight from Snetterton. My name is Maunz. Alongside me in the commentary booth is Kennen Miller. Joshua Wilkie is our producer for tonight's broadcast. Well, folks, welcome in for another week of F4 action here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. This time, though, we head off to a traditional UK track. Snetterton is a staple of iRacing. Just got added into base content a couple of seasons ago and hosts some pretty darn good racing. It may be flat like some other RAF former bases that have been turned into racetracks over the years, but this track has got a whole lot of character baked into it, from the flat turns that you've got around here that are pretty much blind, some fantastic overtaking opportunities as well, and that very long back straightaway that could lend itself to some very good overtaking as well. Kennen, this track is super fun. I'm not sure how much you've gone to drive around this circuit, but I know I have run this track quite a lot in my iRacing career and also on project cars too. This track just has a unique feel to it that makes it super duper fun to both hot lap and race at. So I'm really looking forward to this race here today.
Yeah, absolutely, Ron. I haven't had the pleasure of driving this racetrack too much, but as I was spending time today really studying up on the corners, it really was showing itself that this is going to be quite a technical challenge. The drivers are going to have their hands full. It's really a nice mix of some really interesting hairpin corners, some little longer kind of flat out corners, as well as two very long straightaways, and we'll certainly get to showing off the Bentley straight throughout this broadcast, but it's going to really be quite a mix of how well you can get through corners as well as how much you can manage the draft. The slipstream, I think, will certainly play an effect into who wins today.
Yeah, so obviously that draft is going to be huge, but outside of that, this track has a lot of challenge baked into it. At the end of that back straightaway too, you've got a rather brutal and abrupt chicane. That's usually the way that I like to describe it. Also, the curbs around this track can be a little bit unfortunate. I'm trying to think of the last time that I did a broadcast here at Snetterton. I believe it was another show here on Slow Motion Broadcasting, that being the Formula Ford Weekend Warriors, and I remember that race being rather festive, some drivers hopping themselves into low Earth orbit, but this is a super fun track as we run on board with Sarah Vase as he heads his way off through turn number 1 here. Very quick in these Formula 4 cars, virtually flat. This certainly isn't flat though. Turn 2, the hairpin. Pretty good overtaking opportunity I feel today here, Kennen.
Yeah, absolutely. It is probably one of the most important overtaking opportunities, and now we'll see as he goes into turn 3, famously named Palmer. It's very fast left-hander. You're not going to see him too much side by side there. Everybody's going to want to stay in line. Then it leads right down to one of our other very heavy braking turns, turn 4. It's very hard on the brakes. You'll see a lot of drivers, if they can get through turn 3 with a lot of speed, it'll allow them to make a move inside and possibly see a little bit of action there. And then here, one of the fastest corners you see, almost using into the grass. They're going wide, very fast turn 5 into what a lot would say is a hard turn 6, and you see he runs himself wide a little bit. It's very easy to see yourself caught out throughout this entire track. And then as we kind of get through turn 6 and 7, this will be what is kind of leading up to the back straightaway, and this is what we talked about, the Bentley straight. Full throttle, you're going to see a couple trains, a lot of opportunities to pass. You see maybe kind of aborting the lap, cooling the tires down on some grass there, but really good opportunity to make a draft. And then right there where you're hard braking, it's going to allow you to complete a pass going through turn 9. So as we're riding along here with Vase, having a little bit of a tricky lap at the final section, really only one more good passing opportunity. This hard right-hander going in 11, 12, 13. It's almost like one corner, but they name it into 3. And then we obviously have the 13 where you see just slide in the corner. Everybody wants to kiss that apex. This track does have kind of the pole, sort of makes it a really easy marker. And then you get yourself on the back straightaway and try and do it again. It's a very tricky lap, Mon. It's going to really test the drivers. We're going to see a lot of off tracks here. I don't expect to see. Expect to see really good racing, but there's going to be certainly a handful of mistakes we'll cover.
Yeah, one thing that these racers will have in their back pocket is that this track does have some rather expansive grass runoff areas, but can be very easy to make a mistake, as we see from James McDonald, the number 22 car. He loops it heading his way out of the final turn. You brought it up right there, Kennen, talking about that final turn, a curve in the braking zone. You're turning as you're trying to jam on that brake pedal, and then you pretty much have to aim for an apex that comes out of absolutely nowhere. All the turns around this racetrack, turn number 13 chicane is probably one of the more awkward ones around this circuit. I think awkward is probably the word to describe this circuit. You basically have to, I wouldn't necessarily feel like you're being electrocuted, but you have to feel like you're in a slightly cool bathtub. You know, the water in the bathtub is just cold enough for you to feel uncomfortable, but it's not too cold that you jump out immediately.
Yeah, that's an interesting reference there for sure, but it'll certainly prove to be a challenging corner, probably one of the toughest ones, especially early into a race when a lot of cars are grouped together. It's very easy to find a lot of speed differences in how drivers carry it, and like you said, it's your car is so turned, so there's so much weight kind of shifted as you're getting onto those brakes. It's very easy to lose the underneath of the car and find yourself looped around. You really got to have that thing almost all the way on the limits to carry the speed to the right, and then somehow just come to a stop and get it back left to get onto the front straightaway. So you're absolutely right there. I think the biggest thing I'm kind of looking forward to is really seeing how people handle the turn 6 and turn 4 area. I think that's where we'll see a lot more passing than turn 2. On turn 2, I think you're going to see drivers have so much speed that it'll be easier for the car in front to defend. Turn 4 and 6 will really allow for an opportunity to take advantage under the braking zones.
Yeah, I feel like that infield section always lends itself to some good racing, can lend itself to some mistakes, though, too, as we see Ken Estep running it, heading down into the other Brundle and Nelson chicane. That's turn number 9 and 10 at the end of the Bentley Straight, and that is another awkward section. You usually expect a chicane to kind of be the other way around, slow on entry and then fast through the second part. That, on the other hand, is basically flipped the other way around. It is a bizarre section of racetrack. You're carrying a lot of speed off through it, then down to turn 10 with that massive launching pad. It's not even a curb, it's a launching pad on the inside. If the British ever want to visit the moon, I think they should start their mission by just running a Formula 4 car off on the inside curb through turn number 10, because it would get the same effect.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and it'll certainly be a meeting point for some of these Formula 4 cars, I think, later on in the evening. But I think even to the point you kind of brought up with the Bentley Straight, we haven't discussed too much qualifying as everybody's kind of winding down. His practice has gone full. Adam Duvall with a 147.8 and top 5 look to be pretty close there on the leaderboard. But I think we'll be surprised to see just how much trying to find the right drafting strategy will get you to the top of the board here. I don't think you're going to be able to pull off the top of the board and do it all on your own.
Yeah, so it's going to be a very tough race for these competitors. It's going to be a tough qualifying session as well, with the checkered flag out in practice and the green flag out now in qualifying. Seeing the drivers file on out there on the racetrack. Just briefly touching on the practice results that we saw, Adam Duvall was your quickest racer, and that does make sense considering he is leading the championship points, which I think may be a good time to take a look at right about now here in this event. It's been a topsy-turvy season here in Sim Racers Group F4 action, and I feel like I had a quite good view of it throughout the first half of the season, serving as a producer on these shows. And you can see, based off those championship standings, even if you're just tuning into the series for the very first time, it is super competitive here in this class. Adam Duvall, top of the board right now, 126 points is his present tally. David Hirsch is slotted in second. Jose Navas, who was for the longest time the championship points leader, slotted in third. Some drop rounds have come into effect. He's slotted about 8 points back of Hirsch and 16 back of Duvall, rounding out your top 3 with Edgar Lau, Jacob Guyen in 4th and 5th at 100 points and 89 respectively. Only 1 back is Greg Meyer, Ryan Shia. A couple of points back from that in 7th, Thomas Brashear in 8th with Diego Posada and Aaron Van Wagner completing your top 10. Many of the racers that we just saw join this series midway through. In the case of James McDonald, slotted 22nd. He's put in some good results here in this series already, along with David Borden, who I remember making his debut at Summit Point, and he was very impressive in that race. Ran into some difficulties through it, unfortunately, but some of the drivers that have come into the championship throughout this season, Kennen, have really found their footing quite well.
Yeah, they really have, and it's been such a mix of winners. It's really allowed the points to stay just so competitive up front, and it's really kind of starting to shake everything out as we've just got a few races left in the season. The pretty much everybody listed there in the top 5 is your top 5 in a slightly different order just through practice. So the cream of the crop kind of starts to rise as we get to the end of the Formula 4 season, but there's still quite a handful of drivers that could easily find themselves taking the championship. This might be the most competitive Formula 4 Sim Racers Group Series we've had thus far.
Yeah, this series has always been competitive ever since we got the opportunity to broadcast this series for the very first time back in January of this year. It was January 1st when we were able to broadcast round number 3 action for season 1 of 2025. It was actually myself and our producer, Mr. Joshua Wilkie, on the call for that with our old pal, Mr. Adam Thompson, working on the cameras and the graphics and the virtual production hauler. He's actually going to be in the production truck tomorrow for the F3 show, and hopefully you'll all be able to tune into that, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss out on the racing action there. However, we do have some times about to be put on the board. Adam Duvall looking the quickest in the first sector, purple there. Jose Navas, as that has a big spin heading off through the mid sector. That right there, big spin for the number 2 car of Isaac Amon. Not sure what part of the racetrack that was. Certainly was the infield, but not exactly sure what part it was, as James McDonald comes across the line, runs off the track. So this will probably be an invalidated lap from him, but everybody learning the tight confines of this rather old school facility. Opened all the way back in 1953 and has had some changes over the years, but for the most part, it's stayed relatively the same.
Yeah, and you can see it's certainly a very natural course, all the grass greenery for essentially what makes no track limits on a course like this. So it's always nice to go to these kind of courses. They're not always big pavement parking lots. You've really got to be able to handle the curves and the contours of the entire racetrack to really be quick. And a lot of times if you can just understand the right bumps in the middle of corners, can really change the way your car settles. And finally starting to see some times come through. That's very surprising. We got almost just past 4 minutes, and Jacob Guyton at the top of the board with a 148.746. And we're going to ride on board right now and see if we can get a little bit of a lap. And there's yeah, it looks like he's on board right now. I can't quite tell what number we're on. I believe maybe Navas. Yeah, Jose Navas. So looking pretty clean. A little traffic up ahead. We'll see if he really runs into them or whether he's able to kind of make them a benefactor and utilize that draft by gets to the end of the lap. So finally starting to see a good bit of times in right now. The top 9 is all separated by 4 seconds, Ron. That's a pretty good gap from what we saw in practice. I expect to see the gap really close down tight, as it seemed like everybody had a little bit of trouble in the first time lap, and now we're finally starting to see good laps coming in.
Yeah, thankfully here in this 15-minute long session, even though this track is a bit on the longer end when it comes to lap times from the racetracks we've been at thus far this season, these competitors have a lot of opportunity to improve on their lap times, get into a better zone around this racetrack, and become more comfortable with it as well. I'm sure Jose Navas will do that along with James McDonald, who just had lap time P4 for the driver of the number 22 car. That's a 149.297, less than a tenth the gap between himself and Adam Duvall slotted in 3rd, with Jacob Guyton still holding on to the pole. He's actually purple in the final 2 sectors. May improve on that time. Duvall gonna set quickest, as Guyton right behind him gonna improve 0.04 of a second. The gap between those two. Let's see what Navas does as he comes across the line. P4 for the driver of the number 4 car. Very fitting stuff there.
Yeah, that was a really nice lap by Jose Navas. We were on board with him through that lap, and really looked like he was just sitting a nice, comfortable time. Obviously, only a third of the way through qualifying. Plenty of time to get some improvement, maybe get a little more heat in the tires, drop some fuel out of it, turning a couple more laps. May get him a little better. He was second and fastest with the 147.870 in practice, so he's certainly got plenty bit of time to find some improvement. But Jacob Guyton right now sitting at the top of the board, putting in a nice 148.531, and that is right about 3/10 slower than his practice time too. So I think all the drivers right now putting in a nice consistent lap. This track has proven really difficult, so I think everybody wants to know they've got one good clean one on the board, and we'll see what they can do as they start pushing, who really can find about another second like we saw in practice.
Yeah, so as these racers try and worry about this qualifying session, we get closer and closer to the halfway mark too. As much as 15 minutes is on the longer end for qualifying sessions, compared to the practice session they had earlier on, you feel like there's a little bit of tension in the grid. These racers know, okay, now's the time to pounce. I need to set in good lap time, make sure I can set some consistent times as well. And Briette Hyde about to come across the line, the number 93 car. Let's see what she can do. Currently slotted without a time at the moment. However, don't think she's going to get invalidated on this lap as she comes across the line. That's a 153.5. Slots her in 15th at the moment. Sorry, that was not a 150. That's a 152.4. The other graphics down there on the bottom can be a little bit deceiving in terms of the times that get set as Jason Trantham improves. He's currently slotted inside the top 10. David Borden, he's currently slotted in 3rd at the moment. Purple in the 1st sector, yellow in the middle. He's about to come across the line. Not going to see an improvement from him. However, we do see one for Alex Schwartz. So everybody getting a bit more comfortable around this racetrack. And one thing that I do want to bring up here, Kennen, talking about this track and how these racers want to tackle it, we've got some very cold track temperatures, currently at 66 degrees Fahrenheit, which that's kind of good for me in terms of ambient temperature, but for tires on a race car, that may as well be racing around in the Arctic.
Yeah, it certainly is going to make it a little cold, maybe a little slick on those tires until they can really get some warmth in them. But this track really has just a lot of really high-speed corners and also heavy braking zones. I think after the first few laps, you really see the heat in the tires. I don't think it'll be too much of an issue. Obviously, as we can see on the screen, certainly a very overcast, cloudy day, and that's not even getting any sunlight on the track. So those 65 degrees, it may really even be a little bit worse than that as we're looking at the track temp. But I think overall, these Formula 4 cars and the way the tires really seem to light up in the technicalities of this track, I don't expect it to be much of an issue.
Yeah, thankfully these drivers are turning more often than not, so we're not going to have to worry about these tires completely freezing down to be a popsicle. But if you do have if you do have a spin, that will be a slight benefit to these racers. They probably won't have to worry about overheating tires in case they do get a little bit of scrub. These F4 cars, I love them because you got a lot of slide in them, as there's Adam Duvall jumping up to the pole right now. Wasn't looking too good in the first sectors, but improves right in the final sector. That's a 148.369 for him, and that's a good lap for him too. I mean, look at the gap between himself and Jacob Gein. Not exactly 2 full tenths, but that is still a quite nice margin as we get into the final 5 minutes.
Yeah, and then we just saw Alex Schwartz making a big jump on the board, getting into 3rd with a 148.780. So we're starting to finally see, I think, the faster times come in. There's still 5 minutes left to go, and then there we're seeing the 10 car of who might that be? Alex Schwartz. Yeah, so Alex Schwartz looks like he's staying on another good lap. He's got Jose Navas in front of him. He's obviously looking to improve as well, and it looks like they're just a group of 2 pretty clean in front of them for a little bit. So maybe there will be a little bit of gamesmanship there, and who helps the draft as they get onto the back stretch here in a few corners. But I think he may be trying to still put together a good time, and no, and there you see he kind of starts to weave it and cools it down. So I'll be interested to see if he comes back out then. I would have thought, like you mentioned with the cool tires and all, that the longer you could run, the quicker you'll probably go by getting the heat in the tires. Sometimes we do see where drivers will come in and make a last-ditch effort on fresh tires, but this track and the conditions just doesn't seem like it would be suitable for it. So kind of have to keep our eyes peeled, and now we're looking at James McDonald, see if he improves any of his time. He's been a pretty quick racer the last few weeks, and he jumps right past Jacob Guyton into 2nd. So he's certainly a driver we'll have to look out for in the race, and really all the way through your top 5, Adam Duvall, James McDonald, Jacob Guyton, Alex Schwartz, David Borden, they're all contenders to possibly win this race. And even as you look deeper, you can never leave out a guy like Jose Navas. He's not picked up his first win yet this season, but he's been Mr. Consistency for a reason. He's always on the podium. He's really done a nice job this season to keep himself in the championship hunt. I think one of these days is finally going to be his day at the top of the podium.
Oh, Greg Meyer looking good on the lap. Navas up to P4, but I'm keeping my attention on Meyer in that number 8 car. Purple in Sector 1, green in Sector 2. A reminder, folks, green means that's a personal best, not the session best, but still pretty good. He improves on the time, but not on the position. That's still P7 for the driver of the number 8 car, but not a lot of time left in this session 2. Only 3 minutes and some change left to go, so these racers getting into crunch time. And a reminder, folks, that was a Taco Bell dong. That may have scared the crap out of me slightly. I think the last time I did one of these shows with Mr. Wilkie in the production truck, similar things happened at Indianapolis on the road course 1 season ago. So lightning strikes in the bottle twice, I guess. But no, as we get to the end of this session, a reminder, folks, these drivers, once they hit the 15-minute mark, that just means that anybody can't start another lap. So if you come across a line with only 1 second left to go, you could still improve. And the track conditions will be improving too, with more rubber getting put down. And also, we are getting farther along in the afternoon, Kennen. So theoretically speaking, the track may be slightly warmer as we get to the end. So maybe it's a matter of who can set their lap time last to see who's going to be first.
Yeah, it is. It's just past noon here in the sim time, so kind of getting out of that morning chill and all. Obviously, the overcast is still here, and I think here to stay throughout the rest of the session. But to your point, we've got 2 minutes left in qualifying before you have to take your final time. Most of the drivers are out completing laps at this point, but this is really the opportunity where you'd have to be hitting the line right now to be able to get 2 more hot laps in. So everybody's really got to give it their all here. I would not be surprised if we see a change in the top 3 before the session's over. It's going to come down to a mix of clean laps as well as just giving it everything you've got. I think a lot of the drivers are leaving a little bit out on the table because they don't want to get that 1X. So we'll have to see if anybody can really find themselves a little bit more time here.
As we saw Alex Schwartz come across the line a few moments ago, improved on the time, but not on the spots. That is still P5 for him at the moment here, as just waiting to see who can get the max out of it. Already seeing some mistakes brew up. That was Greg Meyer. He ran wide right on his laps. That invalidated there. This track does have some forgiving track limits, but it can also come back to bite you. It's a fine line between going off the track and being able to keep the lap going, or picking up an incident point and having your lap time be completely invalidated. And later on in the race, a 20-minute race may seem like the blink of an eye, and that's because it is. But in that sprint, you can see some drivers run into some difficulties when it comes to incident points, so we'll certainly be keeping track on that. Now, though, in happy minute here in qualifying with less than a minute left to go, now 30 seconds left, in fact, waiting to see who's going to be the last to start a lap. I believe Adam Duvall will not be able to start another one. He is on an lap. I don't think he's timed out this exactly right. So, I mean, he's still holding on to the pole by about 0.2 of a second, but James McDonald has one more shot at the pole as he comes across the line with only about 20 seconds left on the clock, leaving the tail end out as he heads his way through turn number 1, now through Montreal of 2. This hairpin, super tough to try and get that turn right in the slowest part of the lap, but if McDonald can time this out well, he only has to gain about 0.2 to jump into the pole.
Yeah, I think it's kind of really a challenge of his nerves and how he can keep the momentum up. It's really the only thing stopping him from being able to put down a pole time there. You see using just about every bit of the circuit that he could out of 3, and now going through 4. He's getting through really nicely. Looks like maybe just backing out there, holding it tight. So I don't know. That's kind of an interesting take. I don't know if he's maybe just trying to finish up the lap and
yeah, he's taking
do a little
easy
studying. But yeah, I think he had to abort there. So I think he got a little too wide out of turn 3. I believe he probably caught the 1X there and invalidated the lap. But he's still in a very good starting position, 3rd place. That's a certainly a winning spot he's in.
And that was actually P2 for Jose Navas right at the very end. The man who's stayed consistent throughout this season ended up gaining the championship points lead earlier on in this season 4 without even winning a race. Navas currently slotted in 2nd. If he can maybe grab a win, that'd be a pretty darn good result indeed, as we see Isaac Amon nearly run to the back of a car right in front of him. He came across the line to improve to P14 right at the very end. I believe Cy Nathan will be the last car to set a time here in this session in the number 91 car, currently at a 156.3, and will not improve on that lap there, so slotted in 21st. So I think that'll just about do it here for qualifying for round number 10 of this Sim Racers Group F4 season. If you're enjoying this broadcast here on Slow Motion Broadcasting, why not hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss out on the racing action. So I have 2 more fantastic rounds left to go between now and I believe we're going to be wrapping up this season right in very, very early December, albeit when it comes to dates, I am not very good. Yeah, December 2nd will be the time of the season finale, so hopefully all of you can stay tuned throughout this entire season. If you've been stayed tuned all season long, we very much so appreciate that. Just waiting for the race session to start here in a few moments time. Already everybody down in the pit, so it looks like Adam Duvall, Jose Navas, and James McDonald will be your top 3 in this race. Kind of that is a powerhouse trio.
Yeah, it really is. You're kind of seeing that the cream of the crop, like I said earlier, the rise in the top. You're going to get used to hearing their names a lot. And all 3 drivers very competitive with one another, very clean racers. But I do expect to see quite a bit of aggressiveness, especially here on the opening few laps, to try and kind of assert your dominance and see if you can't get yourself in a position to win very early on in this race.
Yeah, so we'll have to keep an eye on everybody all throughout this field, what sort of day that they can have in the office night, I should probably say. Even though some of these racers are racing from the Sim Racers Group HQ there in California, it's still night for them. I know here on the East Coast for Kennen and I, it is very, very late by my standards, albeit the sleep schedule. But old man, anyways, though, let's take a look at the starting grid here for the 10th round of this season, and it is going to be a very strong front row with Adam Duvall grabbing that pole. Jose Navas set to join him on the front row. James McDonald will start this race in 3rd. Alongside him will be Jacob Guyton. Alex Schwartz will start in 5th. David Borden in 6th. Greg Meyer in 7th. Thomas Brashear will start this race in 8th. David Hirsch will be in 9th. And rounding out your top 10, Kennen, will be Sarah Vase.
Yeah, and then we got Jason Trantham in 11th and Dan Clark in 12th. And that'll be your top 12. A lot of drivers here on the line. I think we're getting ready to see the lights go off. So first lap's going to be quite intense. There's going to be a lot of people trying to get up early. A lot of your front runners are at the top, so we'll just have to see what happens. The lights are about to come up. Yeah,
and here we go. Let's get up and rolling as a green flag's out. The drivers are on their way already, and that's a big jump from the top 3. Duvall from Navas, but McDonald looking to fight down on the inside as they head their way into turn number 1. Not able to get that move done to jump his way up into 2nd, but now they have to chase down into turn number 2. The first heavy braking zone of this lap can be a spot to get a move done. Can be a spot where your race can end in the blink of an eye, though. So let's see how everybody can negotiate. A big lockup right there in the back. I believe that may have been Cy Nathan, but for the most part, Kennen, everybody negotiating the first 3 turns clean.
Yeah, everybody getting pretty good. Walker Fultz started in P20. He's all the way up to P15. Really had an absolutely fantastic opening first few corners here, but you can see everybody's starting to kind of single file out, but it's still very early on. The tires are cold. The brakes are cold. We'll see. We've already seen some lockups, so really got to find a way to manage it, but Adam Duvall really stretching his legs on this opening lap, really pulling away from Navas here.
Yeah, so let's see as they negotiate the early stages of this race, who may be able to jump out into the top spots. Still dealing with lap 1, though, as they head their way onto the Bentley straightaway for the very first time. Adam Duvall leads over Navas, over McDonald, but McDonald close in that number 22 car. That bumblebee buzzing around the back of the number 4 car, but not able to go for the move. He thought better of it. He's got to worry, though, about Alex Schwartz and Jacob Guyton right in tow, as that's Navas running wide. He hops a berm heading through turn number 10, and that's going to be McDonald getting that spot done to jump his way up into P2, and Alex Schwartz following into 3rd. That's Guyton following in 4th. Navas dropping down like an anvil push out of a helicopter. Look at David Borden fighting.
Yeah, Navas is going to have to make a really aggressive move here in 13, and he does with major contact in front. That's McDonald. Schwartz is involved. McDonald falling down the leaderboard. That is quite a contact there coming through the final corner. You can see they're just a pack back there coming down the front straightaway. Greg Meyer almost touching the inside pit lane wall to make a look on Jose Navas. The aggressiveness has really turned up, and Adam Duvall is just running away. It really kind of started with Navas kind of running wide, opened the door. Everybody got a little racy, and then sort of just a meeting of the minds there in turn 13 and creating
Oh.
quite a bit of collisions. You see David Hirsch having a collision. James McDonald is really aggressively having to fight his way back up through the field right now after getting involved in that incident. That really changes everything in how this race is going to look so far and who gets to the podium.
Yeah, and James McDonald running into difficulties, and that was Meyer actually hitting the inside pit wall. You called it perfectly there, Kennen. Tried to get that move done. That's a driver spinning farther in the back. That is McDonald once again going for a spin. This time it's through turn number 4. He stopped on the outside, gonna get that car spun back around, but not after losing out on even more time. He's now down to last of the cars out there in the circuit, 21st. Diego Posada in the number 44 car did not take the start. A slowdown for David Borden as well in the number 94, and in all that drama, Jose Navas has come back from the brink of disaster to jump his way back into second. But this is what started off that chaos. This is at the end of the Bentley straightaway, heading off through the 9 and 10 chicane. Just carried way too much speed there. He overshot the braking zone big time, hops the berm, goes off the track, and there's McDonald going past, and then he just gets absolutely railroaded on the outside.
Yeah, that's just a really tough incident, and then we'll see kind of what happens here in 13. Yeah, it does, and there it is. McDonald just loses it on his own. Schwartz nowhere to go. Everybody really just has to scatter behind him. Thankfully, it didn't look like too many drivers had too much contact. Obviously, in the Sim Racers Group Formula 4 Series, there isn't any damage, but it certainly does cost you time when you kind of inflict it and have to get yourself back going. So everybody's still staying in a really tight pack right now. Adam Duvall is still kind of pulling ahead, but James McDonald just having a very tough opening lap. Had a really nice start, but it really just unwinded for him there in the final corners. So that's just quite an incredible little bit there. And we see Adam Duvall over a 5-second lead already, and we're only just starting the third lap of this race. It's really starting to spread out between the top 3. We'll see if David Borden or Jose Navas might be able to give any kind of fight to the front.
As I think something's going on with Ken Glasser and Embriad Hyde, as they're both dropping down now to 20th and 21st. Something may have happened to the both of them in separate incidents because they weren't around each other on the racetrack at the time, but they both dropped down at roughly the same rate. Let's take a look first what happened to Glasser. It may have actually been coming together. There's the dive from Glasser, locks it up big time, contact made through the turn, and oh my goodness, that was Embriad Hyde hopping and skipping up into the air, not out of bleed, but because of contact. These Formula 4 cars, sometimes the physics surrounding them can be a little bit goofy. And we'll look again. That was the contact, and Embriad Hyde getting all 4 up off the deck. That was probably about 5 feet of air. I'll give some style points, but Embriad Hyde not going to get a lot of championship points as a result of that coming together. Oh. I have never seen a driver do something like that. You know, actually, I lie. We've seen some interesting aerial acrobatics here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. As I joke about, more often than not, we're the only broadcasting company on the entirety of YouTube and Twitch as well that has to have insurance protection for the drones, helicopters, and blimps that we got from protection from race car collisions. As I think there may have been a coming together between Cy Nathan and David Hirsch as they had their way through Bomb Hole. As you come out of that chicane, it's so inviting to try and go for a pass, but can usually end in disaster very easily too.
Yeah, David Hirsch had a really rough opening lap. He's down 10 positions and trying to do his best to make up time like he can, but unfortunately kind of get the tires warm spinning him out, and it doesn't quite ever feel the same. It can really break your confidence, so it really puts it into a tough fight. And you see he's really lunging there on the outside of side Nathan, and Nathan's able to cover him off, but he does have several cars there in front. So Jose of David Hirsch may be able to do a little recovery drive for the next 4 or 5 spots. But so far, the hard charger Walker Fultz, we haven't talked about him too much, but really been holding the course steady. He's up 9 positions and just really doing a nice job right there running in P11. That's a really good run to see on the leaderboard.
that is another moment with David Hirsch right as I cut to the pictures. That was, as that's a spin right in front, nearly a spin as Dan Clark kept it going in a straight line. He's turned his tires into rectangles. That was a huge sideways snap. Always love to see that photo from Dan Clark. Love the Forrest Gump reference there. That was a huge snap for Lieutenant Dan coming out of turn number 5. Looped it around, nearly slammed on the brakes, dropped the anchors, kept it rolling, but he's now in a side-by-side battle with himself and David Hirsch. He backs out. That's Hirsch with a whole head of speed. Gotta try and get it moved on side. Nathan as well. Nathan gotta try and cover off the inside as they head their way into 9 and 10, but not able to make it work as David Hirsch, who's now in P17, as Nathan holds on to 16th. Meanwhile, up at the front, Jacob Guyton and Greg Meyer have had a swaparoo right behind your race leader of Adam Duvall. Something's been going on for Navas because he is really dropping off in the pace department as Meyer and Guyton continue to fight after P2.
Yeah, it's a nice little group there. We can see them all in the shot. That's 2nd through 7th place. So it's really everybody's pretty tight overall. There's still plenty of time left in this race. We've seen quite a handful of mistakes here, and here we're looking at Guyton and the 64 of Greg Meyer, and goes through 13 really nice and clean. To see if they can kind of get a nice move there, but just kind of playing the follow the leader strategy at the moment. Everybody's kind of trying to utilize the draft, so nothing too much there, but you are right. Navas has dropped another half a second. He's kind of at this point holding up David Borden and Thomas Brashear. They'll have to maybe be a little more aggressive to try and get by. I don't think Navas is just going to let them by, so kind of interesting that he's kind of fallen off so far. I wonder what's kind of happened to him during these laps. I believe Borden is about to make a move on him.
Here we go, side by side between Borden and Navas. Contact made, and once again, Navas going to go off the track on the outside, turn number 10. We'll lose out on a spot to Thomas Brashear in the number 1 car, who's now going to get involved in that fight. He is the meat of the sandwich as Borden starts to drive off into the sunset, and Navas going to try and get his bearing straight. Cy Nathan, meanwhile, has run into some trouble. That's as he headed his way off through turn number 6 and 7. That's sort of 2 turns baked into one. It's a very odd section of racetrack, and he had some assistance. That was contact hang down into the turn. That's the number 2 of Isaac Amon. I'm not sure if it was direct contact that caused a spin. It certainly looked like it from our camera angle, but I'll neither confirm nor deny as we jump to another shot here to see it from the number 2 cars. May have just been the smoke screen kind of intimidating him. A little bit of contact made. I think he was spun either way because that wasn't the biggest tap in the world. We have seen, there's probably been lighter taps on the roads as, holy cow, we've got some 3-wide action hang down the start-finish straightaway.
Yeah, it's James McDonald trying to get some spots back there for 12th, and he will manage to make it stick there on the outside. Michael Wynn and Kenny step right behind. So James McDonald done a nice recovery drive for being all the way at the bottom in 21st. He's got himself back up to 12th, and now we're right at the halfway point in the race. There's no reason to think that he can't find himself in the top 10, possibly top 9 of the leaderboard by the end of this race. So be kind of interesting to see. Top 4 have really started to spread out. Really, the best race right now is between Thomas Brashear and Jose Navas. Everybody on the board, as you can see, lots of white numbers there, all outside of a second away. So everything kind of starting to spread out and settle down. We'll see if the drivers do the same and maybe start putting together good laps, and just how different we'll see everything kind of change up coming to the end here.
And, you know, as this race has developed, there's been another, I wouldn't say a storyline developing, but there was a poll put up in the other YouTube chat, and we'll keep that open through to the end of the race, kind of asking the other audience, which, by the way, there are about 20 people tuning into the stream. Thank you all so much for tuning in to this broadcast here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. But there is a poll up there in the YouTube chat, kind of asking the audience who they think may walk away with the win here. And as it stands right now, Adam Duvall has a 75% poll. And actually, we can make that 60 as Jose Navas getting some support. It's 60% for Duvall, 20% for Jose Navas, and then 20% for another driver a little bit farther. Any other driver outside of those two, and James McDonald, unfortunately for McDonald, has run into some difficulties. Although we say that he has put on a rousing recovery drive of all the chaos has been going on. He's been able to make his way up into 12th. Even though he was down in 21st a matter of about what do we say, probably about 9 minutes ago. James McDonald, I mean, it's not a fantastic race considering the difficulties that he ran into earlier on, but either way, McDonald putting on a darn good recovery drive as all the cast has been breaking out around him.
Yeah, he's certainly having to do everything he can, but I know when this race is all said and done, he'll really regret the mistakes he had on that opening lap, falling 9 positions so far after starting P3. So you can see he's starting to lose a little bit of a gap. He may be able to reel it in, but I think he's kind of had to push so hard to get to where he is. His tires are kind of gone, but car in front of him, Sarb Vase, does lock it up just a little bit there. Kind of having to keep it. So James McDonald's still on the hunt, and it looks like he may have a chance here. Vase had a little bit of a rough previous corner. We'll just kind of have to keep an eye on it. It's really one of our best fights here, and then we do have to keep an eye on Thomas Brasheary and David Borden, because that is a really shaping up to be quite a fight for 4th place, I think, in the final 8 minutes.
Yeah, so something's going on with Dan Clark as all the drama has been going on out there on the racetrack. He's fallen out of this race, slotted in 21st. The only retirement from what has been a hectic round of the championship here at Snetterton. I think it was said best in the YouTube chat that this track has been somewhat of a quiet assassin here. You usually think, okay, yeah, Snetterton, flat track, some difficult turns to be sure, but there's no elevation change around here. It's probably not going to be a very difficult race. Not so fast. It has been a tough one for these competitors, a tough cookie to try and crack this track. I personally enjoyed it. I love the challenge, and this is actually the longest of the 3 separate layouts that we've got here. I've seen the 300 layout that we're running, of course, here tonight be used, obviously, because I'm commentating this race of it being used. I've seen the 200 layout get used, which immediately shortcuts from the exit of the Montreal hairpin, turn number 2, onto the Bentley straightaway. There's also the not very used 100 configuration, which only uses the infield section of this track. And I believe that does correspond with the miles, because this track and the configuration we are running is just a tick under 3 miles. iRacing marks it off as 2.97. But either way, it's a very good facility. This hasn't seen a lot of changes over the years, and even though it may not be grade 1 certified, it still puts on some good racing. And speaking of, here's Sarah Vase and James McDonald. This is a battle for P11. Vase trying to fend off your at 1 point top 3 runner.
Yeah, it's managed to hold him off for the whole previous lap. I really thought McDonald would be able to get by him. You can see he's really getting there up on the rear wing now. So if McDonald wants to see himself maybe move any further, he really probably doesn't have a chance with Walker Foltz being 10 seconds ahead. This is really the one last race, so maybe he's kind of finding no need to really have to push the issue. Maybe take a moment to try and size up Sarvez and really put together a pretty clean pass. We'll see if he kind of makes a look here, but yeah, just too far away right now. I think he's kind of trying to see if he can stay close enough, maybe force a mistake. You see Vase using every bit of that curb there. His Formula 4 cars, they really are a really nice match for the Snetterton circuit. You are right, Ron. It's a nice car combo. You can see just how challenging it's been for all the drivers, top to bottom, really, except for Adam Duvall. Everybody's really had to go through a little of something. So it's really proven to be quite a good test on this the entire circuit that we run this season.
I think the battles are still far from over as we jump to this one with David Bourne and Greg Meyer. It's P3 and P4 to these racers as they head their way out of 3 into 4. See what I did there? That was cheap. I apologize. Meanwhile, we got some battles a little bit farther behind. We go from the battling up towards the north end to the battle a little bit farther in the south end. This is Embriad Hyde, Isaac Amon, and Ken Glasser. Amon and Hyde going side by side as they head their way downtown to turn number 1. Amon going to try and sweep around the outside that number 2 car, and he gets that move done. That is some slick stuff to jump his way up into P16. Now look at Ken Glasser. These two came to blows, hang down to turn number 2 a little bit earlier on in this race. Glasser got to take it a bit easier, doesn't lock up. He avoids that quite well, doesn't get the move done, and maybe loses out on a bit of time, but he keeps it easy, keeps it clean, and they don't have any aerial acrobatics for their turn number 2 this time.
Yeah, no, did a really nice job there, so that's pretty clean. And here you can see Greg Meyer is right on David Borden now for P3, looking to get on the bottom step of the podium. He's got an opportunity. I don't think we'll see him make any kind of lunge here going into turn 13, but if he gets through clean, and it looks like he does, he may have a good drafting chances there, making a run down to turn 1. maybe just a little too far away. So we'll have to see if we can kind of set him up there. He's within half a second and really putting quite a bit of pressure onto David Borden right now. This is sometimes where we kind of get to the point of the race where the tires, depending on how hard you've abused them, you can really see some noticeable fall off, and some drivers will be able to make some late attacks. So this is going to prove to probably be one of the best races we'll see as we're coming down to the finish. Adam Duvall has just absolutely ran away with this, and same with Jacob Guyton, really securely sitting in P2.
So Adam Duvall has just driven off into the sunset. I think the turning point of this race, Kennen, was right towards the beginning when we saw that drama at the end of lap number 2. Drivers going off the track started with Jose Navas running wide, heading his way through turn number 10, and the ensuing stack up just allowed Adam Duvall to drive off into the sunset. But even after that, we have had some shuffling around. Greg Meyer at one point was running in third and battling with Jacob Guyton. Now David Bourne has been able to jump his way up into third. I've seen some hard chargers throughout this race, and Borden is most certainly one of them, up 3 spots. Walker Foltz, meanwhile, he's had an under-the-radar drive, currently running in 10th. 10 spots gained since the drop of the green flag, and James McDonald marked as losing 8 because of what happened earlier on, the fact that he started in the top 3, ran into some difficulties. If we mark him as starting in 21st, though, he would have made up pretty much the exact same spots, currently running at 11th, got that moved on Sarah Vase in the replay that you all just saw. Vase running a little bit wide, had a lock up down into the turn. Once again, the final turn around this racetrack proving to be a troubling one, but James McDonald now going to be battling with Walker Foltz here, so that 10 spots gained may potentially drop down to 9 here in a couple of moments.
Yeah, he's gonna have an opportunity. I'm figuring we're looking at possibly a lap and a half remaining. I know Adam Duvall has got to be getting that white flag the next time he comes by, I would imagine. So see what he can kind of do. He's certainly got the pace on him, and here as they're coming into 11, 12, 13, he looks inside of him. That's a really risky move to have to make. It's gonna put him on the outside for 13. Not quite able to hold him off, but I think he may be able to get a run down the front straightaway. But Walker Foltz gets a pretty nice exit, so that's a good run. And yeah, I don't see the white flag out yet, so they'll still get 2 more laps to try and settle their differences here. And with them fighting, you can see sort of Vase in the back. He would love any opportunity to be able to get these 2 spots himself as well.
Oh, and look at that. The side-by-side battling heading down to turn number 2. And that right there is a pretty convincing move from James McDonald to hold on to that P10 spot. Walker Foltz thinks about going for the move heading down into turn number 3. That's a gutsy spot to go for an overtake. They nearly made contact as they head their way into the apex. McDonald runs a little bit wide. Foltz really laying that pressure on as thick as frosting on a wedding cake. You look right behind, though. Sarah Vase maybe gonna get involved in the battles. Look at Walker Foltz diving down for the outside. That's heading his way into turn number 4. Doesn't get the move done, but credit where credit is most certainly due to the driver of the 55. Walker Foltz is really impressing at the end of this race. Bravo to him, holding on to some good spots. Still 9 gains since the drop of the green flag, and even if he loses that on a couple more, that'll be a darn good drive from him. Meanwhile, up in the front, it was borderline, but I believe Adam Duvall took the white flag, and he's now going to take the checkered flag to win it here at Snetterton today, and he wins it by a comfortable margin too. About 7 seconds between himself and Jacob Guyton. David Bourne rounds out your top 3. Greg Meyer will come home in 4th with Thomas Brashear and Jose Navas, and a photo finish right behind. 22,000 of a second at the end there. Man, Kennen, this... Oh, actually, I'm going to hold off at that point. Ryan, she and Alex Schwartz have a photo finish right behind. 10 thousandth of a second, 100th of a second at the end of this race. You know what I was just going to say, Kennen? This has proved to be a very competitive track. And, you know, that really spoke volumes, the fact that I had to interrupt myself saying that because we had some photo finishes. It may have another one, too, with Walker Foltz and Sarah Vase coming across the line. This race was a banger.
Yeah, it was a really good race. It proved highly competitive all throughout the field. Adam Duvall obviously really drove away from everybody, but there was really no spot left unfinished. It got a little spread out there at the end, and there we see Alex Schwartz just touching wheels to be able to get by Thomas Brashear there. So that is really quite a good move. And yeah, we kind of saw that there was a little bit of a spreading out of the pack throughout the middle of the race, and right there at the end, the drivers were able to really kind of push, and it really closed a lot of gaps. That was a really nice finish. Overall, really well done job throughout for all the drivers today.
And one saying that I always think of when I think of this series is expect the unexpected. And I think this track really proved that here today as we take a look at this photo finish between Thomas Brashear and Jose Navas. Interesting point to raise as the poll has closed as to who was going to win this race. Adam Duvall, funnily enough, won the race and won the poll. But man, oh man, look at that finish as they came to the very end. Brashear trying to do everything that he could. Look at the gap at the very end. Very tricky as we try and time it right. Yeah, that's close enough. You can see it's about a nose cone that he had out in front. And I think we'll be able to get the slow-mo shot there. These cars are hustling. You think, oh yeah, Formula 4, not as quick as Formula 1, and that may be true, but these cars really still haul the mail. But man, this race was absolutely fantastic. Certainly a challenging one for these competitors, and none of the racers in the top three outside of Adam Duvall were able to finish this race in the top three. But that was still a fun one. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, that was really good. It's just kind of looking on the timing, just how many drivers had good days and how many had bad days. Dan Clark obviously coming up as our only retired car of the race, down 9. But then you got Walker Foltz comes away with an 11. He's up 9. Michael Wynn with a great race, up 6. Even Jason Trantham up 4. Thomas Brashear, Greg Meyer, and David Borden all up 3 positions, getting into 3rd, 4th, and 5th. So really interesting day where the field from qualifying really did a little topsy-turvy and a lot of switching up and down. So Vay's down 2. Even James McDonald, he actually had a fantastic recovery drive from being down 20, but still down 7. You really didn't expect that kind of result for him. So certainly a little bit of the shakeup in the entire point standings here. Adam Duvall certainly stayed at the top, but that is quite a competitive race. Very interesting to see so many position changes.
Yeah, that was a fun one all throughout. Even though it was a bit of a runaway at the front end of the field, everywhere behind, it was absolutely fantastic. I think we have a lot of standout drives. James McDonald's recovery from running down in 21st at one point to making his way back up into the top 10 at the very end. Walker Foltz, your hard charger, up 9 spots. And a special shout out as well to Michael Quinn, up 6 spots from the drop of the green through to the fall of the checkered. We had a darn good race here, and we'll go over those results in just a couple of moments' time to let you know how everything shook out at the end of this, because that was darn good. I mean, I did have the opportunity to cover the first 7 races of this season in the production truck. First time I've been able to commentate this series since last season. And man, as Greg Meyer's team name says, this track proved to be a banger factory. That was cheap. Adam Duvall, though, scores the victory. 6.9 seconds is the gap there at the very end. Nice. Guyan finishes in 2nd from David Borden in 3rd. Greg Meyer comes home in 4th with Thomas Brashear rounding out your top 5. Jose Navas in 6th with Jason Trantham in 7th. Alex Schwartz in 8th. Ryan Shia in 9th with James McDonald rounding out our top 10.
Yeah, and then Walker Foltz finishing 11th. Really nice run, getting up 9 positions from starting P20, and then Sarah Vay's in 12th. Michael Wynn 13th, 14th. David Hirsch 15th. Kenny Step 16th. Isaac Ammon 17th. Embry Hyde 18th. Rudy Samudio. And then finishing off Ken Glasser in 19th. Side Nathan had a really nice opening lap. Unfortunately, lost control and found himself falling back to 20th. And then our one retire, Dan Clark. So that rounds out all of these starters for today's race. That was really quite a good one, Ron. That was a really thrilling event, actually, all throughout. Much better than I was previously expecting, for sure.
Yeah, I was expecting this track to maybe be one that these racers would have no trouble tackling. However, as I said a little bit earlier on, this track proved to be a bit of a silent killer, silent but deadly here at this racetrack. So unfortunately, however, some racers did get called out by the stink, but I think some of the racers that we will have a chat with are going to be happy about the day that they had. I think we'll get the interviews started, and we'll do it in finishing order, as we'll start off with Jacob Guyton, our P2 finisher here in this race. He had a darn good drive on his way to P2. So let's have a chat with him. Jacob, welcome into the broadcast booth, man. It's P2 for you at the end of this race here at Snetterton. How was it out there?
It was good. Surprisingly, a lot of grip on the track today compared to practice days, which was great to feel and great to race on. And yeah, I thought today went pretty good.
And that is a little bit surprising to me that you say that, considering the track temperatures were at about 66 degrees Fahrenheit all throughout. It's usually rather cold, but I guess these F4 cars just have a little bit of slide down, a little bit of slip, just enough to really make sure the tires never get cold.
Yeah, they've you could play around with it a little bit. They're usually pretty planted, but even on the weekend, track temps were around 65, 66, and near the same weather. So I'm not really sure what changed. I'll have to look into that, but it felt really good today.
Yeah, it certainly looked like you're feeling comfortable walking away from this race with a P2. I want to ask you about this racetrack because it is a bit of an oddity on iRacing. Just got made to be a part of base content a couple of seasons ago. I really enjoy it, but I can understand this track can be a little bit polarizing. So I want to ask you what you think of this racetrack yourself.
It's tricky in the F4. It was really tricky to learn. There's a lot of interesting corners where you just have to lift and kind of point the car and let it carry, and the chicane after the bridge, after the Bentley straight, and that last little chicane or turn are brutal. You are off by a hair and you're going for the next state over. I guess it would be, I don't know what England calls them, but brutal track, but lots of fun once you get a hang of it. And I didn't think it was going to be good racing. Seemed a little sketchy, but it turned out to be really fun.
And I think that inside curb through turn number 10, if you hit that at speed in an F4 car, you could probably end up in Scotland at the end of it all. So that, that'd actually be a fun experiment for me to see. I'm not sure if I would pay for somebody to do that to themselves in real life, because that'd probably result in some sort of back injury. But either way, next time out, Jacob, we are going to be running at another oddity. I believe next time out, we're going to be racing at Misano. So what are your thoughts heading to that track in 1 week's time?
Misano, I haven't raced there yet. Gonna have to learn that one up pretty quick, like I did with Snetterton. I heard it was a MotoGP track, and I kind of did a little putt around it the other day in iRacing on a practice session. And it definitely seems like a MotoGP type track. It's very tight, and it's just turn after turn after turn after turn. I think it's only got like really one straight, but pretty excited about that one. It's a beautiful track, so it'll at least be nice looking at.
Yeah, I think the way that we can cut that is it'll be torture on the tires, and it'll be like a workout for your arms for that race. I think that'll probably be the best way we could sum it up. But I'm looking forward to seeing what sort of racing y'all have there next time out, because Misano is pretty fun. I don't think I've gotten the opportunity to cover too many races there, but I think the first one I did was in similar-ish cars. It was the Super Formula Lights way back in the day, and I remember that being a pretty fun race. So looking forward to seeing what y'all can do there. But Jacob, before we let you go and celebrate this P2 result, we'll let you give any thank yous or shout outs.
Thank you to my family for tuning in, friends and family for tuning in. Thank you to SRG, the communities, the F4 members who provide good racing. I want to publicly apologize to Mr. Sunny for the little contact yesterday, and thank you guys for putting on the show and letting us show our skills and let everyone watch the fun.
Hey, we always have a fun time broadcasting these races. But Jacob, thank you for joining us in the booth. Well done on the P2, and looking forward to seeing you out there at Misano next time out.
Thanks so much. We'll see you guys there.
Sounds good. That right there was your P2 finisher of Jacob Gein joining us here in the broadcast booth. And Kennen, I will pass the mic off to you to have a chat with our P6 finisher, that being Jose Navas, who had a pretty wild ride in this race himself.
Yeah, I'm down here right now with Jose Navas. Started second today in the race. Unfortunately, fell back 4 places. We really kind of saw the struggles through turn 10, but wound up with P6, which I think overall is really well. And given David Hirsch's finish of 14th, should have placed you back up into P2 in the points championship standings. So, Jose, how would you describe the day at such a difficult Snetterton circuit?
Yeah, definitely it was very tricky. It took me actually a long time to get up to speed on this track. Like before the practice today, like we were even joking on on the SRG chat because I was checking the times that people had, and they had like 147s, and it's like I can barely do a 148.5. So it's like, when are these people getting that extra second? And then on practice, I end up catching up. So I was able to get a good pace, and even on qualifying, I was able to put a 147 myself and put it on P2. So that was exciting. But I think I paid the price for practicing too much on the day of the race. So during the race, I found myself like tired and easily distracted, and I think that's what the problem I ended up having. Before the hour practice that we usually had, I did like another 45 minutes practice, so I just think I was just too tired by the time that I got to the race.
Yeah, that's a lot of seat time to do before racing. It's certainly no joke to keep the car from underneath you as it is in the Formula 4 cars. So I think overall, really good job to come up with P6. What do you think really gave you the couple struggles going through turns 10? We saw you run wide there a couple times. Obviously, in the opening lap, it seemed to cost you a few positions, but do you think you just kind of missed the point, or did the car kind of just act not the way you were used to?
Yeah, so it took me a couple of laps to realize, but the wind actually changed. So we used to have a tailwind into the back straight and a headwind into the first corner. So I also went wide a couple of times in the first corner, and I think the wind actually changed. So I think that's what was happening too, and I did not correct until later in the race once I realized what was going on with the wind, because temperature and everything else was the same. So that's the only thing that I saw different.
Yeah, that's interesting for the wind to kind of change like that, and certainly just some of those fine details that you really have to keep up with being a Formula 4 driver in this Sim Racers Group League that really just makes all the difference in the world, and how you kind of come out of it. And before we let you go, got Misano next week. How are you feeling towards that, and who you want to give a shout out to for the race today?
Well, yeah, clearly, like, I think for next week, what I'm going to have to do is practice more over the weekend and before the race, because, dang, these people are getting fast. Shout out, I would actually want to shout out to Adam. He's on a roll, I think 3 in a row now. He's actually one of the people that I enjoy racing the most. We used to have a joke when I started racing with SRG, because we were racing each other race after race. So now we're getting back into it. Like, there was a moment when I got a bit faster. Now he's catching up, and now he's just like passing me and just like super fast again. So it's exciting to see him up there and getting good racing. I hope I can get a bit more consistent so I can give more wheel to wheel. But yeah, I think Adam deserves a shout out on how much he's just taking it home right now.
Yeah, absolutely. He's hitting off on all cylinders. He's currently leading the points championship, but you're right there, not far behind him, sitting in P2 after today. So hopefully you guys get a real good opportunity. We got a few more weeks left to decide the championship, and try and give him everything you got, Jose. We really appreciate you being here, and look forward to seeing you next week at Misano.
Yep, thank you very much. See you next week.
Thank you.
And that right there was Jose Navas, our P6 finisher here in this race. And we have time to chat with one more driver. It's our P19 finisher, the driver of the number 41 car and Sim Racers Group F4 stalwart. It is Kennen Glasser now joining us here in the broadcast booth. Ken, welcome in. And I want to ask you, as we get this interview up and rolling, your thoughts on this race here at Snetterton tonight. Looked like a pretty wild one out there on the racetrack. Oh, hello, Ken. We'll give Ken an opportunity to maybe unmute his microphone. We cannot hear him in the broadcast booth right now. We'll give it a couple of moments. Ken, do you have a copy on us? I think we'll give Ken a little bit of time to kind of go through the audio settings here real quick and talk about the next round of the championship as well. Misano, that is going to be a wild one. That track, you can definitely tell, is a little bit motorcycle central, but this track does host some motorcycle racing too, but you can definitely tell it's a bit more leaned in towards cars. As we have a one last opportunity. Hello, Ken. Do you have a copy right now? I don't believe we have Ken Glasser here in the broadcast booth right now. That's unfortunate. I want to have a chat with him and kind of ask him what some of the challenges were in this race today. Certainly found himself in the trenches, for lack of a better term. But Ken, I will ask you about Misano next time out, because that is going to be a very, very wild race. Oh, I think.
Hey, are you there?
There we go. Okay, we got you now, Ken. Welcome back into the broadcast booth. Glad all the audio issues have been sorted, but welcome in here. Ask the question that I asked before. How do you find this race here at Snetterton today?
Oh, I think the track is really cool. I actually enjoy it, but I had a miserable night. I think on the start, I just got eaten alive, and then there were some pretty aggressive moves coming from behind me. I was kind of trying to stay clean and stay out of the way, and boy, it was an aggressive start, but then it slowly started to fall apart. So it was more of a night to forget than a night to remember.
And I will say, and this is honest, I described your race as really being in the trenches throughout. You found yourself in a lot of battles, really the epicenter of all the craziness a little bit farther behind. So I want to ask you about the nerves of running around this racetrack, being involved in battle after battle all throughout.
Oh, well, the nerves were fine. I mean, it was a real challenge. And then, typically it's like Ken and Embriette and I battle pretty regularly, and I sort of lost them. I had a mistake early on in turn 2, and I think hit the curb and went off, and I avoided an incident there, and but then I think I ended up catching Embriette, unfortunately, so I kind of knocked her off, which feel bad about that. That wasn't the intent, but she has such a wide car. It's so hard to pass her sometimes, and when I did catch back up in that last corner, she would somehow pull the anchor and block the track, and then you just couldn't get a run on her. So she's got a super effective strategy there. But it was good. It was a good race.
Yeah, it looked like a fun one, maybe a little bit unnerving at some points in time, seeing a lot of craziness go on around you. But next time out, we are going to be heading to Misano, a different style of racetrack to be sure. One that I enjoy, but I want to ask what your thoughts are heading there.
You know what? I have never run there, I don't think. So it's going to be a new experience.
Venture off into the unknown. I don't think that track is too popular on iRacing, which I think is a bit unfortunate of the motorcycle centered kind of racetracks on iRacing. I think it's on the better end, but very good reason why I'm usually behind the microphone instead of behind the wheel. But Ken, before we let you go and get on with the rest of your night, I'll let you give any thanks or shout outs before we let you go.
Yeah, thanks to Jason and Tyler here at the SRG headquarters. I'm one of the folks that come in to join the crew here on a Tuesday night, and then we still enjoy having the ability to chat with everybody online. So, and a good field turnout. It's great when we have a bunch of cars and different skill sets throughout. So we can always find somebody to race with. Makes it fun.
Yeah, I know. I gotta say, and this is honest, although I don't get to do these broadcasts too often, every single time that I do, I always love seeing the community that we've got here in Sim Racers Group. Y'all do an amazing job, and glad to be a part of these shows from time to time, because y'all just put on some absolutely amazing racing. But Ken, thank you for joining us in the booth, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time out at Misano.
And thank you guys. We really appreciate you being there and highlighting our good and our bad.
It's our pleasure and it's our job sometimes.
Alrighty, have a good night.
Sounds good, man. That right there was Ken Glass, your P19 finisher here in this race. Now, Kennen, we can look ahead to Misano next time at. That track is not very popular, which I think is a darn shame, because if you ever drive around there, it's got a unique kind of flow and feel to it that I think will mesh very well with these F4s.
Yeah, I think we're going to have a really nice, good, tight track that we're going to see some really tight passing, and I'm looking forward to it. It should be quite a good challenge.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a very fun race, and of course you'll be able to catch all of the action here on Slow Motion Broadcasting as you can week in and week out. That doesn't do it for the broadcast here on Slow Motion Broadcasting, as we have got you booked throughout the rest of the week. Tomorrow, we've actually got a three-peat, in fact, as the Extreme Motorsports Ferrari Road and Oval Challenge is going to be running at Lucas Oil Indianapolis Raceway Park for the 5th round of their championship. You can expect that usual Ferrari Challenge action on some nice little short track action there. SRG F4 is going to be running at Watkins Glen tomorrow night as well, along with the season opening race for Group 4 of the Ray Esports Club Racing League. That'll be an 80-man long GT4 race to look forward to tomorrow night here on SMB as well. Formula V is going to be running at Alton Park on this upcoming Saturday at 2:25 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Formula 4 is going to be at Sonoma on the Cup layout this upcoming Sunday, followed later on that night by Spec Racer Fords at Road America, and XSLR returning once again at Sonoma, that time on the Rallycross configuration. Of course, next week you'll be able to see Sim Racers Group F4 action here on Slow Motion Broadcasting for round number 11 at Misano. It was a pleasure to be here in the broadcast booth. Your usual voice of Sim Racers Group action, Mr. J or Gregory, out with some sort of illness. We'll see if he's actually there in the booth for the F3 show tomorrow. But either way I sliced it, it's been once again my honor to be the voice of this action here tonight, and we had a darn good race. And all of you tuning into this broadcast, hope you have enjoyed it, and if you have, how about you hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss out on any of the racing action. But as for this broadcast here tonight for round number 10 of the Sim Racers Group F4 series here at Snetterton, that will just about do it. And so for myself, Ron Maunz, Kennen Miller joining me in the commentary booth, and Joshua Wilkie working on the cameras and the graphics and the virtual production hauler, I say thank you all so very much for tuning into the action here on Slow Motion Broadcasting tonight, and we hope to see you all wherever it is, not too distant future.